Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 59. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Jessica Kupferman from Lady Business Radio. Jessica is a brand strategist and techie superstar. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me, Holly.
I'm so excited to have you here today. So, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and what it is that you do?
So, background. How far should I go?
Well, you've been in business since 2005, so I think that's really exciting. So tell us all about your journey, how you got started in this whole business thing.
Okay. Well, it started when I hated every job I've ever had, starting with when I was 14. And I'm not sure if maybe I didn't have good role models in that area because my mother, she had jobs starting from when I was about 8. But she never liked her bosses or anything like that. And my father had his own business since about that time, since I was about 8. And before that, I actually don't remember. He was a teacher. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think teachers really complain so much about their boss. He was a professor. Honestly, he used to teach video production, which I think is not really, because when I say professor, it makes him sound super smart. But really, he just is like a big TV watcher, right? So anyway. So I didn't really any jobs. And then you sort of feel like that's your plan, though, no matter what, because it's not necessarily parental push or, any kind of pressure or anything, but you just sort of feel like, okay, what's my job going to be when I get older? And I sort of always tell myself as an ad executive, kind of like the tiger lady from Baby Boom, when Diane Keaton is, doing clients and holding the baby at the same time. I sort of saw myself as that. And then it didn't really work out that way. I have a communications degree, which didn't translate into ad executive as fast as I would have liked. I was sort of like a sales pimp, kind of pushing advertising constantly. I would sell all kinds of, it was really more magazine and website advertising. So banner ads and stuff like that from since 1999. Yeah. And then my mother got sick in 2004. She was 2004. And she was diagnosed with cancer and she passed away 8 months later. Ooh. She was 55 when she died.
I'm so sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, thank you. 55 or about to turn 55. And I sort of felt like if I'm going to only have 25 years left, I can't do something that I hate for the rest of my life. And I certainly can't do it for people that I hate or for something that I don't believe in. Mm. So I had been, up until that point, I had been, when you're passionate about something, you just sort of eat, sleep, and breathe that thing. And up until my mom got sick, I was really obsessed with design and graphic design because I'd been selling all these ads, but I really wanted to design them because I thought that would be A, more peaceful and B, more fun. I also thought I could do a better job. So I was always reading about design and freelancing and pricing and stuff like that. When my mom passed away, I was like, I'm just going to make a go of it. And so I quit my job and took a little bit of money that she had left me, bought a computer, an Adobe Creative Suite, and some design courses. Although that was really just because I think when you're self-taught, you always worry there's something you're missing. Mm-hmm. And that was about 30% true. So I'm glad I did that, but I had taught myself more than I thought. Mm. And then I just sort of jumped in. I just said yes to every job that would come my way, every client. Even if I couldn't do it, I researched it until I figured it out because I was so desperate to make it work and not go back to having a job. Mm. Which actually, as a designer, I did go back, but not as a full-time employee, but I did have contracts on and off for the first 5 years because I had a really hard time, especially without social media, having steady work.
Yeah.
And so my last full-time contract lasted, the longest one was the last one. It was 2 years at Subaru corporate headquarters. I had clients on the side. I was doing that full-time, and I was very lucky because I didn't really have full-time work there, but they were still paying me for 40 hours. Mm. I was probably working 8, just because they didn't really have a lot of stuff for me to do. So I was learning a lot about social media at the time, because it was like 2008, right? So I was learning all about Facebook, all about Twitter, all about LinkedIn, how to use them for business. And then I was teaching my clients how to do it. So when I left Subaru, I had a pretty healthy online following, but also I was able to teach people design and social media. And then it just sort of branched from there. I went from design and social media. And then as the online entrepreneurial world started to take shape, people didn't just need how to use Facebook to get more clients and how to have a web design that sells, but also they need to know how to set up like their email marketing and their newsletters and what makes a good newsletter and that, what makes a good sales page and that kind of stuff. So I was in a really good position at the time to sort of transition again, because that's how I do, right? So I transitioned again from like design and social media to sort of like just an online business consultant. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of what I do now is I help people. I can look at your branding. I can look at your sales. I can look at your systems because I used to set them up, and I can look at your language and see like what's off, what's not working, what could be better. It was good training for being like an overall help, I guess, to people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because so often we just get our heads stuck so far up in our business that we don't take the time to step back, and it can be so helpful to have another person kind of give us a different perspective on our businesses.
Yes, and I do have to say sometimes I do it without being asked, but what can you do? But no, I do. I definitely do. So with friends, sometimes I look and go, this would be so much better if you could just say why we should sign up, not just the what, right?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people miss that. Just like you say, they're so mired in what they're selling, they don't tell you why you need it.
Exactly.
That's a common one. Anyway, so that's a common one that I noticed.
Now, I think one of the important things that you say in your website is that you consider yourself a consultant, not a coach. And I think that's a very big distinction to make. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I get the impression when people look for a coach, what they want is someone to hold their hand and say, you can do it, more than they need like actionable items. Mm-hmm. And so as a consultant, I see a consultant as someone who's more like, this is what's broken. Here's how you fix it. Yeah. Check back with me in a week and let me see what you've done. Yeah. I don't really want to know. I mean, there are some times, Holly, when I'm working with someone who I don't know if this is just intuition, instinct, or, psychic ability, but sometimes I can tell when people are giving me BS excuses because they're afraid. And I do call them out on that. But I don't want it to be my job to do that. I can do it if I can see it. But for the most part, I just want to say, okay, here's what you need to do in order to make your Facebook more active. Here's some stuff. Here's some examples of stuff you can post. Let's make a schedule of what works for your schedule. Check back with me. And then when they haven't done it, I'm just like, okay, are you really that busy? Or do you just feel a little afraid of getting out there? Like, what's the deal? But I don't want to, from the beginning, be like, so how do you feel about Facebook? I just don't, that's not really my thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I totally get what you're saying, and I think that coaching is very much about helping people, get from where they are to where they want to be. But it doesn't involve giving advice, and consulting does involve giving advice. And there's so many times in business when you just need someone to be like, hey, this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to do it, rather than kind of the coaching part of things.
And I will also add that, and I know you can do it part, but that doesn't mean that I want that to be required, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to be the main job description is the you can do it part. I know people need to hear that, and I need to hear that. But when I have invested in coaching, I find often that what's missing is the actionable items. And then I'm left going, well, I feel really good about myself, but I still don't know what that frig to do here.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do now? It's in you. You have it. Okay, what? So that's why I say I'm a consultant. I also often say that I'm uncoachable. It's maybe why I don't say I'm a coach.
So, Jessica, was there a tipping point in your business when things kind of started to flow?
That is a good question. I've had a couple different times actually when things started to flow. And up until this year, I actually was, I think, sabotaging it. Mm-hmm. So I've rebranded a couple different times for a couple different reasons. Like when I first started my design business, it was Clever Girl Designs. And then when I started to move it into social media, I rebranded as Digital Stew.
Ooh.
And I was like the head chef, and the person was like the sous chef. We were going to cook something delicious that would last for a long, like a marketing strategy that would last a long time. It was clever and it was really cute, but I'm like actually a terrible cook. And so to say I'm a head chef of anything is probably not a good idea. So, and also I felt, it felt, even though it was a pretty logo and a good looking brand, it didn't feel like me really. And I think it was because when I branded for the service and not for myself. So then I rebranded again. And so, but that was again, right as that was taking off, I started to feel like, what am I doing? And so I changed it again. And so I changed to something called Badass Biz.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. So each time you're just like, yes.
You're sassy.
So Badass Biz was about being, having the most badass business you can, which meant, being more brave and standing out and really owning what you do and getting rid of the stuff that you don't do well. But I had a partner at the time that didn't work out. And so I didn't want people to affiliate the partnership with that business. So I dissolved that business, even though, again, it was right when it was starting to get popular. And then this year I sort of it was actually around Christmas. I mean, I've had Lady Business Radio since May of last year, but after that partnership, I was really hesitant to sell something other than what I was doing already, which was same stuff, design, social media consulting. And it was around Christmas. I was just like, what the heck am I afraid of? Like, why? And I realized it was because I didn't really trust myself to get big enough because I was afraid I couldn't handle what would happen. It's almost like you sabotage yourself because you're okay, if I get one more client, what if I disappoint people? What if I can't manage it all? What if I can't afford help and I'm drowning in my own bottlenecking? And so I started to realize, if I had just seen one of those things through, I wouldn't have to keep starting over like this. And so as soon as I just was like, I have to commit to doing this. I have to commit to doing it well. I'm not going to change it come hell or high water. And I'm going to sell all the stuff that I'm good at. And I'm not going to wait anymore for it to work out. And I don't care if I can't manage it. I'm just going to figure it out.
Yeah.
and so that was a real turning point, because then I started to be like, everyone needs to listen to Lady Business right now. It's like once you give yourself permission to maybe screw up a little at the beginning, everything just started to flow a lot better for me.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, I know, it's quite the insight. Believe me, I mean, it kind of hit me like a punch in the face, not literally, but it felt like that kind of.
Yeah, so a lot of the work that you do with other people is around branding, and you've gone through such a branding journey yourself.
Yeah, I know. It's probably why I feel like I can help people with it so much, because I can see where they're not quite being themselves or not quite being true to who they really are. I mean, I think part of that is that you have to really know someone before you know if their brand is off.
Yeah.
And so I'm usually really good at doing it with people who reveal a lot about themselves. So part of my process is going back to what stuff are you good at? What did you like to do as a kid? What kind of stuff do you do in your spare time? Because I think all of that is so important, even if it just means let's just say, you're a podcaster, Holly, but let's just say you're super into hiking in the outdoors.
I totally am.
That's so funny. So but so for example, if I were rebranding you, and I'm not saying you need this, one thing I might look at, and I don't even know what your color scheme is, so this is a complete example, just for your listeners. One thing I would look at is your color scheme. Should we have a more outdoorsy feel, even if it's not part of your brand? Because would you like looking at it better? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So stuff like that. If there are certain colors that you just look at and feel energized. For me, that's like a teal. Mm-hmm. Any teal, I'm just like, yes. I don't know why that feels like a power color to me for some reason, or like a hot pink. So I incorporated those, but they're not quite the colors that make me sing inside, but they're close enough where I'm just like, yeah, I like looking at that, Because I feel like you should, or because you market it more when you like to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember that not one of my first websites, but a couple of websites ago, when I had the website done and went online, I just loved it so much, and it was just so beautiful. I would be sitting at work during the day, and I would just call up my website just to look at it, just because it was just so nice, and it just felt so good.
Yeah, and see, now I'm pulling it up, and you do kind of have it's a very zen feel, and it's kind of oceany almost, or tropical.
Yep. And I lived in Southeast Mexico for many, many years, so.
So that's perfect.
It's probably where the tropics come from.
Go on a website, yes. It's beautiful. Yeah. So see, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, it does. And I absolutely love what you say about incorporating the things that you like into your business. Because, for example, I mean, obviously social media is my thing, but on Instagram, for example, I don't really market my business on Instagram. But what you can find on my Instagram profile are all of my walks, because I go on walks all the time and hikes, and you can see trails and trees and forests and just all kinds of nature stuff. And you
Yeah.
get that side of me if you follow me on that social media site. So, yeah.
Right. Now, see, and think of how off-brand it would be, because you have this like Zen, socially holistic. How off-brand would it be to like go to your Instagram and see you at like biker bars?
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so weird and off-brand, right? Like you should have a brand that's like black and like maybe some red, or something that like really shows that you're into motorcycles. If we're gonna see that on your Instagram, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I like to know that stuff, because then I can look at a website and go, I mean, I see what you're trying to do here, but it's not really you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
and I think that's so important. I think that branding is like this word that so many people feel like it's just so confusing, and it's like a mystery, and it's like, what is it? But it's not that hard. It's just kind of expressing yourself visually.
Yes. And I think some people don't think, I mean, I think not everyone thinks visually. And so I think people look at other people's website and go, well, that's pretty. I kind of like that, but I don't really know how I look visually, like as part of a website. And that's why I think you need someone to take you through, like, well, this font, there's the difference between this font and this font. These little I's are angry and these little A's are friendly, right? And then you go, okay, well, I'm more friendly than angry, so I'll choose that font. It's kind of like, it's very subtle.
Yeah.
But every script is different. Every regular font is different. Some are more corporate. Is that me? I'm so sorry. Some are more corporate. Some are more friendly. Some are more, funky or whatever. And so whatever you're trying to portray, it's so important to have the right color. Just for me, it's the right color and the right font. If nothing else, if everything else were to stay the same. Right color, right font is so important, I think. And to keep it consistent and not use a bunch.
Yes, and not have like a whole rainbow of different colors.
No, you pick two, and by God, that font should be used on your tombstone, as far as that's on brand, baby.
Now, one of the talks that you give, because you're also a speaker, is called You're More Fascinating Than You Realize. And I think that is such an important topic. And I think that's a huge part of branding as well. So how would you recommend that business owners can tap into what it is that's fascinating about them?
Oh, I wish if you gave me a minute, I'd pull up my slides for this, because it's so funny. I'm just going to I'd like to start your answering this question by giving you an example of something. So my coach because I told you what I was struggling with at the beginning of the year of having the confidence to be able to branch out. My coach is a confidence and a sales coach, because after being traumatized so many years in sales, I've now discovered that I sweat like more when I do it than I did before. But her brand, interestingly enough, even though she's really great at this, she's really one note Wanda, where she's like, are you having trouble with your sales? Are you having trouble with your confidence? Take your power back, blah, blah, blah. And she does, I've noticed that just on her personal page alone, Holly, like she gets like 2 comments. Mm-hmm. So the last time we were ending a call, I was like, do me a favor. Next time you go on Facebook, I want you to just post very simply and with no expectation what you ate. Just post what you ate. It's very cliche. She was like, that's not going to do anything. I'm like, just watch, right? And I can still, she did it last night around 8 p.m. She is still getting comments almost 12 hours later. She posted what smoothie she was drinking. She has gotten like 20 smoothie recipes, people talking about drinking healthy and good for you. And she lives in Hawaii also, so it's parlayed into that a little bit. I mean, it's like more engagement than she's gotten probably all year from that one simple thing. And I think it's because, like, yes, we want to know how you can help. And yes, we want to know what you're great at. And yes, we want you to be inspiring. But at the same time, if you're not relatable, you're not going to sell yourself. And so being relatable, I think, is the number one thing that brings you more business. It's actually the opposite of what you would think would be true, because you think, like, I'm going to tell people how great I am at branding, and therefore everyone's going to want to hire me for my brand. No. I tell people that, I'm having a bad hair day, that I burned dinner, that I'm too pregnant to fit in my pants anymore, just whatever it is. And normally for me, it's disaster stuff, but it doesn't have to be for you. That's just sort of my brand is like me being a disaster. Because actually, I mean, I have ADHD, so when you have that, like a lot of that is your life, really. It's just being forgetful and burning and ruining things. So like, but that's not all. I mean, it's also like having little wins, like, or asking people if they think also it's barbaric to have the toilet paper go over rather than under, or under rather than over. Like, these are tiny little things, but they make people feel like they know you.
Yes.
And that is the key to what people have been telling us from the beginning about know, like, and trust. How are they going to know? How are they really going to know you? And a podcast actually, for me, has what's helped that the most, because people will email me now and say, I know you can help me with this, and I listen to your podcast, and I already feel like I know you. Where do I pay?
Yes. Yes.
And I do you get that also?
Yeah, it's funny because it's gotten to the point where I go to networking meetings, like, in real life, offline, and people will say, oh, your voice sounds really familiar. and I'll be like, well, do you listen to my podcast? They're like, oh my God, I listen to your podcast. Yes, that's you.
That's so funny.
And it's like they feel like they already know me because they've been listening to my voice, on their iPod.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a podcast is actually a very quick way to get to that point. But if if your listeners don't have a podcast or don't want a podcast or don't want to have anything to do with the podcast, just revealing tiny little things about yourself makes such a huge difference. And then I have some friends who say, but I'm not, my life's not really that interesting. And I'll say it now, we're not interested in what's going on in your life. It's what's going on in your head that's interesting.
Ooh.
Not your life. Like, we don't care that you drove to the store. Don't really care that you bought bananas. But if the banana looks like Marv Albert, or I don't even know why that came into my head, but like just somebody with a big nose, that's who I thought of. If it looks like, I can't even think of anyone now because that's just the weirdest reference I've probably ever made ever. That's interesting. If the potato looks like Jesus, that's interesting, right? Not necessarily that you bought potatoes, because you're right. Your life isn't really, most of our lives are mundane, but our thoughts and our fears and our little mini triumphs, that's what's fascinating. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I love that. I think that's great because I think so many people that I talk to just say, oh, I don't know what to say on social media. And I just think, my God, there's so much to say.
So much to say.
And it's not just marketing your business because, of course, it's social media, so you need to be social. So all these little tidbits of personal stuff are what really are going to attract people to you.
And the other advice I think for people who like don't know what to say and they're afraid of saying the wrong thing is like, think of yourself like it's summertime. So I'll say like at a barbecue, you don't say, you don't go to a barbecue and start talking about war in Israel, right? Because you're going to be unpopular. Or you don't go there and start talking about how much you hate Obama or how much you love Obama or how much you believe in the right wing or believe in the left wing, because we just don't do that at parties, right? We keep things light. We keep things casual. We talk about TV. We talk about movies. We talk about, again, what we ate, what kind of stuff we're eating, dieting, actually, just the kind of stuff that we're going through our day. But it's real casual, real light, real like, please like me. I'm kind of fun. I'm not going to make you uncomfortable kind of conversation. That's exactly what you should be doing on social media as well.
Exactly.
I think people go the wrong extreme in both ways. They either don't say enough or they say so much that they polarize people. And so religion, it's like religion, politics, and sex. That usually will turn people off, literally, really, with that last one, right? But like,
unless your business is all about sex.
Right, or politics or religion. I mean, very rarely, and that there are some exceptions. There are people who are very religious and can incorporate it in social media in a way that doesn't offend people. And I have a really good friend who does that well. But mostly, I think it's because she just generally praises God or talks about the universe or talks about being grateful without being super Christian. She doesn't quote Bible verses, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, you run the risk of people not wanting to work with you if you're so religious that they feel like you're going to coach them that way or work with them in that way, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Totally agree with that. So tell us a little bit about how people can work with you, because you've got a bunch of exciting things. You've got your branding intensive, you've got your 30-day coaching, you've got VIP days. Tell us a little bit about those.
So, right now, I'm not sure when your show will go live, but like I had mentioned earlier, I'm pregnant. I'm due in December.
Ooh, congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm almost halfway there. I'm a little over halfway there. And so the branding intensive is 3 90-minute sessions that take you through creating everything or recreating everything. So you can either be starting from scratch or just want to recreate. Like for people who aren't crazy about their tagline, they need an elevator pitch so they can tell people what they do and just have it roll right off the tongue. I also go through like their about page, their services page. Is it all phrased in a way where people really get a feel of what it's like to work with you before they sign up? And then we go through visibility. Like once your brand is established, where can you become more visible? Is it posting more on Facebook? And then what should you post? Is it guest posting? Where should you guest post? Mm-hmm. Is it being interviewed? Who should interview you? That kind of thing. And so, so that's 3 sessions, and they can just email me from my website and ask me about it if they want to. And then I have a really exclusive 3-month coaching package right now where it's like bi-weekly one-on-ones just to go through kind of like what I was saying at the very beginning, just going through your online business and figuring out what's working, what's not working, how can you really push to the next level in the next 90 days. And it's really 90 days because I only really have 90 days. But also I think you can get a lot done in 90 days. Like I think you can at the very least see what's wrong, start fixing it. And so in 90 days to, 6 months, you can have an idea of like, you can make huge changes in that amount of time.
Oh, definitely.
If you have a path, right? So
exactly.
So that's what I'm doing right now. And then I have Podcasting School for Women.
Ooh.
For people who want to start a podcast.
Oh, tell us more about that. So
Podcasting School for Women I created it because in other podcasting schools that I've taken, they're full of men. Mm-hmm. And podcasting, there's a tech barrier for women right now. And there's 3 barriers. Do I have the time? Can I learn the tech? And what the heck would I say? And so I think the last 2, the tech and the fear of being heard, is something I feel like they can work out better through a forum of just women. Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like, I notice in the forums that include men, whenever a woman asks a question, there's like a lot of men telling them how to do stuff. It's very techy. They don't explain it. It can be overwhelming, and then they end up not doing it. And I would really rather have women sort of go, well, this is what's worked for me, and I work from home too, and my baby's here. Just something that is maybe a little more relatable. The course is also designed that way for women who are trying to fit it in and want the easiest tech possible. They don't want to, use feed, I really give them a very limited amount of tech that they have to learn, and it's the easiest I've found, mm-hmm. so that they can do a podcast and get their message heard or have their own show without having to be so bogged down by all the different choices too.
Yeah, there's so much when you're just getting started because everyone's got different advice, and it's like, what do I do?
Everyone has different advice, different opinions about hosting, different opinions about what's the best recorder, and I went through that. I tried them all. And what I use is the best audio that I've found, and this is the host that gives you the best statistics, and here you go. Mm-hmm. No need to look. If you want to look, great, but this is what I found works. So it's a home study right now. It's $4.97, and then you also can buy week to week. So if there are podcasters who are just wanting to grow or just wanting to monetize, you can buy just like week 4, week 5, week 6 if you wanted. Ooh, not you personally, but just whoever. Yeah.
That's a great option. I love that.
Yeah, well, so because I noticed, we have a group of women. I think you're part of it, of women podcasters. Yep. Called She Podcasts. I noticed that they have some people have shows and they're kind of hobbies, and like there's a friend in there right now who does a Disney podcast who's just now thinking like, oh, all these entrepreneurs maybe they're onto something. I want to start my own business, but they're not sure because they have this popular show, but not sure how to make money with it. So that one piece I think is important. It's kind of like how to have an online business, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can blog until the cows come home, but if you're not monetizing it, you're not making any money.
Who cares? Exactly. So there's Podcasting School for Women, and then I'm going to launch something cool in the fall about, it's not how to have an online business, but how to do all the stuff that you're supposed to come along with it. So that's coming in the fall, but it's going to include like stuff like how to set up an affiliate program, how to have webinars, how to, how to deliver audio content, how to do an audio, how to deliver all different kinds of programs if you want to create one, that kind of thing.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Ooh, I'll be looking forward to
that.
Then
I'm going to have a baby right after that.
All right. And then you can kick back and focus on your baby.
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Just wanted to ask you a little bit more about your podcast because you've got 121 episodes out there now.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. And you've only been doing this since last year, correct?
I've only been doing it last year, and I started with one a week, and then I looked at the list of people that I pitched or wanted to pitch, and I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to get through this list. I'm going to be not that I don't want to podcast the rest of my life, but I was just so excited to talk to people, and I didn't want to wait 6 months to do it. And so I was like, so I'm going to do 2 shows a week. So I started doing 2 shows a week about a month or so into it. It was really once I had a system down, but I still, I mean, I don't, how often does your show go out?
It goes out once a week.
Once a week. Yeah. So doing 2 a week, it's like double the work, double the marketing, double the guest maintenance, double. So just what my fear was, I ended up drowning in my own stuff, and I had to quickly outsource it. But for me, it's worth it because it was that thing, Holly, where it's like once I started podcasting, it was like all of a sudden more than before, people started saying, this is your thing, you're in your element, why didn't you do this sooner? And so I realized like, well, this is really the thing that I'm good at, it should really come first.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's important. It doesn't happen, first of all, it's hardly ever happened to me. And it doesn't happen very much, I think, in life, that you find something that you love to do that other people are like, man, you're so great at that.
Yeah.
Like an okay designer. I mean, I'm all right. But I studied hard. This I didn't have to study. I've just like turned on the microphone and, hey, how are you? It's Jess. Let's go. Ready to go. I'm always energized. I'm always happy to talk to whoever I'm talking to. Just like right now, like even being interviewed, I'm happy to. It's fun.
Exactly.
I'm happy to do it. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I love my podcast.
Yeah. It's the most fun thing ever, right?
Yes.
And I think from the beginning whether or not you need to have one, or you probably knew before you even started a podcast that you were like, oh, I got to have my own show.
Yeah, definitely. It was just kind of this bolt of inspiration that came to me one day and was like, what? I have to have a podcast? Oh yeah, let me get planning.
Yes, and all of a sudden, just like me at the beginning of design, you're obsessed, right? How do I get it up? How fast can I get it up?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So it's really fun, and I want to help other people do that too. So yeah.
Excellent. So Jessica, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Mentor is a strong word.
All right.
Because I had people that I thought I considered mentors for a while, and then I realized I was just jealous of everything they did and why it was working and why my stuff wasn't working as successfully as theirs. And then I got bitter, and so I stopped doing that. And so I want to say that right now I have a very specific circle of women who are my peers, who are kind of like mentors, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So like Denise Duffield-Thomas is a really good friend, and she and I started at the same level, and we are both like introverted in the same way, and like want to run our businesses in the same way. And so I would consider her a mentor, but also a good friend, if you know what I mean. Like, and there's lots of people like that where they do stuff that's so different from me, but I really admire like the way they've been able to fit it into their life, or the way that they've been able to change and keep things successful. Erica Learmark is another one. I really admire her. She wrote this amazing book called Think Like a Stripper. Yeah, do you know about her? She was a stripper and put herself through school, and now has, I think, 2 degrees from doing that. But her book is about sales lessons you learn from stripping, and I would imagine you would learn a lot because you're doing the hustle, right? You gotta hustle those guys out of their cash. So it's a great book and a quick read, but I also learned so much about her. I learned about like how smart she is about sales, and how ballsy kind of you have to be, and how sure of yourself you need to be. Like one of her lessons is like, I put on a blonde wig and I couldn't sell diddles.
Wow.
But as soon as I'm me, as soon as I'm dark-haired Raven, I sell like a champ because I'm not a blonde bimbo. Why would I put on a wig and act like one? And think of how that, and like that just kind of like, I mean, it didn't really apply to me because I'm myself, because I can't even help myself, but that really applies to people so much.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to be this person when you're not? You're the dark-haired Raven, be that.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's a huge, I don't want to say influence, but like I admire her and I really follow her business, and she's always up to something neat. So those are just a couple examples. Podcaster wise,
sure.
I don't know, that's really hard. My partner Elsie, she podcasts, also a person who's so different from me. We could be like oil and water, but she is a podcasting passionate someone dubbed her the podcast philosopher, and that's so true. Like, she's very philosophical about podcasting and like the ethics behind it and the business behind it. And her show notes, if you look at shepodcast.com, are my show notes, my show, and the show notes she writes for the show we do together, she like writes a novel. Every link, every reference, she times it out. She tells you like at 2 minutes in, we're talking about this. At 4 minutes in, we're talking about that. She's very dedicated, and I'm so grateful to have her as a partner, but also I really admire like just how into it she is. I just love that.
Ooh, excellent.
It's her life. Podcasting is like her life. She's like a guru. She's like the love guru of podcasting. So yeah, she's another one. She works for Libsyn too. She works for the host, for our hosting company.
Excellent.
I don't know
I host with Libsyn too. Love them.
She's their social media community manager, and she's perfect because she's so passionate. So who better to pump up Libsyn than her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah, she's good. So I hope that was
those were excellent.
Yeah.
So Jessica, where can people find you online if they want to check you out?
Yeah, lady-business.biz is my website. And then I have Facebook page, facebook.com/ladybusinessmedia. But my favorite thing lately is I have an online group of people who listen to the show and then also guests. It's called the Lady Business Bomb Squad. Ooh. And it's super, oddly, when you have a podcast, people who are attracted to are similar to you. So they're really like very outspoken and passionate and smart. Not that I'm, pat myself on the back. But anyway, they're like me. The things that I like about myself, they're like me. And so it's a really active group and a really fun group. And that's ladybusiness.biz/bomb squad. Ooh, okay. Just how you would think it would be spelled. And those women in there are so fun. You wouldn't even believe it. They're active and fun and very supportive and generous with their time and their help. So it's a good place for women entrepreneurs.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been really fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. It was great. Thank you. And I really look forward to getting this out there. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP59 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.